Good afternoon, everyone. Mr. Lawson, can you hear us? And Mr. Hervishon, can you hear us clearly?
I think we're muted. Are we muted?
We weren't. I don't think so. Okay. Again, Mr. Lawson and Mr. Hervishon, can you hear us?
They may be away from their couch.
Loud and clear.
Thank you. Okay. Today we have members from the South Carolina Department of Transportation. The purpose of this meeting is for the South Carolina Department of Transportation to have the answers that were responded, or the questions that were responded to by the independent review team. When the 278 corridor project was put into place, one of the things that was requested was an independent review, which was conducted. Council accepted the independent review and had it sent on to SCDOT. SCDOT has taken a look at that independent review and has responded and will publicly answer those questions for us. So I'm going to turn it over to SCDOT for the remainder of the meeting. Gentlemen.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm Craig Wynn with the SCDOT. I'm the DOT's project manager for the project. I have Eric Burgess with KCI. He's KCI's project manager. They're the lead consultant from the project, and Phil Leeser is the deputy PM for the consultant.
Excellent.
So, we've got a short presentation that'll go through each of the recommendations and the responses to each of them, and then have some additional information as well.
Which one?
Oh, the PowerPoint, I'm sorry.
Okay, that's okay.
So sorry.
That's all right. Give me just a second. Let me know when you're ready.
We're good.
Okay.
Alright. So the first recommendation, go to the next slide. The first recommendation was to utilize two-phase signals throughout the corridor. And the majority of amendments required 90% of the signal time to be green. Additional phases reduce the available green time to allow for additional amount of green, yellow, and red for safety of the other movements. Each additional phase would need a minimum of 13 seconds to fully serve the movement. So basically, a 180-second cycle would be ideal to minimize delays for all movements. 160 of those seconds would have to be dedicated to US 278, leaving only 20 seconds for any additional phase. If one or more phase was allowed, the required minimum time would exceed the 20-second maximum threshold and impact the ability to successfully process 278.
And I'll add to that this is the recommendation that came out of the study.
So, next slide. So, understanding, so basically, we are maximizing the two-phase signal to the greatest extent throughout the practical through the corridor. We have two extensive evaluations of the intersections. The first one is the 278 alternative intersection analysis between Squire Pope Road and Wild Horse Road, Spanish Wells Road. Those are a part of the EA document that will be signed by Federal Highways prior to us moving to the public hearing. And then the second one is alternative intersection analysis along Jenkins Island. That was revised, both of those were revised in late January and finalized. And each of those are a part of the EA document. Next slide. So the intersections between Squire Pope Road and Wild Horse Spanish Wells Road. So the recommendation is to divert the left turns from Squire Pope Road and Spanish Wells Road to a new signal at Old Wild Horse Road to accommodate these turning movements. By consolidating these left turn movements at one point, each traffic signal functions as a two-phase signal, providing the maximum green time on 278. Next. So the next one was the intersection at Jenkins Island. So we did additional analysis and looked at multiple alternatives for this intersection. So the preferred alternative for this one is a full access signal, which in the end has 3 phases. So there'd be the phases for mainline 278, there'd be a left-hand turn into Gateway Drive, and then there would be the side streets of C. Heinrich Circle and Gateway Drive functioning as the third phase of that signal. So we also want to make sure that we plan for future sidewalks and shared use path crossings at that location. We want to provide mobility alternatives for users. It does prevent challenges in ways to safely cross 278. We did look at the Super Street concept, but that doesn't provide a safe crossing along the corridor. So the next one is, the recommendation was to limit the conflict points at intersections. Limiting the number of conflicts reduces the chances of crashes. So the recommendation was to look at alternative intersections should be considered for safety and reduce the signals, to include potential U-turns, 2-phase signals, and frontage roads. So we were able to reduce the conflict points throughout the corridor. So we have proposed a new road that connects from Jenkins Road and Gateway Drive, C. Heinrich Circle, to a single US 278 access point. And then there's also a new frontage road connection from Hog Island to C. Heinrich Circle. So the existing Blue Heron Point Road would entirely go away, and the traffic that currently goes to there would be diverted up to C. Heinrich Circle with a new bridge across the next to the existing bridges. So we're able to remove, and then Jenkins Island Road, or Jenkins Road, becomes a one-way road in only. So you can only, if you're heading westbound off island, you'd be able to turn right in, but all the outbound movements would run through the one single location. So we're able to reduce the conflict movements at each of those intersections, as well as eliminate the conflict movements at some of the conflict movements at Squire Pope Road and Spanish Wells Road. So we're restricting those left turns to 2 intersections, establishing a protected U-turn movement for the left-hand turn. So that left-hand turn becomes protected, so people can cross there, and you don't have the conflict movements of people trying to turn against oncoming traffic. The next one is probably the main point that was brought up in the independent review, which is understanding costs, level of service, and travel time. So it's to provide cost estimates for all reasonable alternatives and intersection concepts. Provide the level of service at each intersection, and perform a corridor arterial travel time analysis to determine the impact of the time on the traveling public from Bluffton Parkway to the Cross Island Parkway. So the next slide shows the evaluation criteria and understanding the cost. So project cost is one of the final evaluation criterias of the alternatives, how they're being evaluated, as well as 14 other criteria. So it is just one part of that analysis, but so the construction costs as part of the EA range from $218 million to $356 million. And the details of each of those individual alternatives will be released as part of the EA document at the public hearing, as well as all the other evaluation criteria for the reasonable alternatives. So the next one is the understanding the cost of the intersection alternatives. So previously we have included this slide in presentations to each of the councils, as well as to the stakeholder groups, and is included as part of the intersection traffic amendments. So as you can see, initially it was either green, yellow, or red for new travel pattern, right-of-way acquisition, view obstructions, and costs. It also included the level of service. So we evaluated 14 alternatives, as well as some additional ones, but the DOT developed alternatives where there were 14 initially. Those were reduced down to 4, which was the jug handle, the flyover, the optimizing lanes, and the signal at Old Wild Horse. So in doing that, we analyzed each of these using a Synchro software to calculate the level of service. The following table, the table provides the level of service. So as you can see, for the jug handle, you have a level of service D at both Squire Pope and Spanish Wells Road. For the flyover, you get a level of service C and D at with Spanish Walls Road. For the optimizing lane, both intersections operate at a level of service D. So the optimized lanes would be the one that has at Squire Pope Road, it would have dual left-hand turn lanes. It would have all the acceleration lanes, decel lanes that are necessary for that signal to operate, but it still only operates at a level of service D. And for the signal at Old Wild Horse Road, it shows it's a level of service B, C, and C. So that's an intersection analysis, and we also do sim traffic analysis that will show additional travel time and delay. That's coming up here in a second. So when we look at the costs associated with, let me go back here. So the jug handle and the flyover were both eliminated due to the level of service that we were getting from those and the costs associated with them, and then the new travel patterns and right of way. But each of those were previously carried forward at recommendation from community impact, and we wanted to carry them forward as well there. We are not analyzed between optimized lanes and the signal at Old Wild Horse Road. The signal at Old Wild Horse Road gave us the best level of service. It has minimal right-of-way acquisition, and it has the cheapest cost at $4.4 million. So that $4.4 million is the roadway cost from the causeway to Spanish Wells Road, or to basically to the other side of Spanish Wells Road to tie into the Cross Island Parkway. So that's for all improvements necessary. So that when we evaluate the costs, we kept it that way so that each of them were evaluated equally for their costs. Next slide. So again, this is breaking down the intersection costs. So as you can see, alternative 10B is the preferred intersection alternative. So that consolidates the left from Squire Pope Road and Spanish Wells Road to Old Wild Horse Road. So at Old Wild Horse Road, if you're traveling eastbound, you have the ability to turn left. You have dual left-hand turns. The inside lane can make a U-turn and go back to Squire Pope Road. So it's diverting that traffic through there, but the travel time is actually reduced by diverting that traffic that way. Or you can continue up Old Wild Horse Road and connect into Wild Horse. So left turns are eliminated at Squire Pope Road and Spanish Wells Road. So all the left turns operate through one traffic signal, which is either green or red for mainline 278 and the turning movements. All right, next slide. So this is the sim traffic modeling. So this is evaluating measures of effectiveness. So we're looking at travel time, travel speed, the delay in each direction, and it also looks at the level of service for each reasonable alternative. After considering the right-of-way impacts, again, flyover and jug handle were eliminated. And then additionally, so there was multiple opportunities for the Old Wild Horse signal. There's multiple concepts there. So only the most effective one was carried forward. So as you can see, when you look at the travel time speeds, the Old Wild Horse signal has the reduced travel time through the corridor at a greater speed in both the eastbound and westbound direction.
We holding questions till the end, Joe?
If you don't mind, Larry, just let them get through, because I know there's going to be a series of questions.
Okay, fine.
Thanks.
So this is the slide that I think everybody's been asking for. It was a big part of what came out of the independent review and the public's concern. As you can see, from 2045 no build from Pinckney Island to Spanish Wells Road, the travel time would be 20 minutes in the eastbound direction and 9 miles an hour. In the westbound direction, off island, again, and this is the PM peak, so these are PM hours. The travel time is 12.1 minutes getting off the island at 15.4 miles an hour. With the overhead signals, you're looking at eastbound 4.9 minutes and a travel speed of 40 miles an hour. And then westbound it's 5.9 minutes at 33.6 miles an hour. So this is 2045 traffic with the signal installations through there. The travel time through the entire corridor from end to end and no build in the eastbound direction, so on the on-island direction is 30 minutes and 13 minutes, 13 miles an hour. Let me go back to the time savings. So you have a time savings in the eastbound direction from Pinckney Island to Spanish Wells Road at 15 minutes in the eastbound direction and 6 minutes in the westbound direction. So from Moss Creek to Spanish Wells, which is end-to-end travel time, 2045 is operating at 30 minutes. So it takes 30 minutes to go end-to-end in the eastbound direction at 13 miles an hour. And the westbound direction is 51 and a half minutes and 9 miles an hour. With the old Wild Horse signal, you reduce the eastbound travel time to 10 minutes at 39 miles an hour, and the off island is 19 minutes at 19 miles an hour. That is showing, so the westbound direction, the additional travel time and the travel speed, that's getting the influence of the traffic from Bluffton and those signals once you get into Bluffton that are starting to back up onto 278, backing up into the merge condition for the Bluffton Parkway, those next 3 or 4 signals into Bluffton. So you're seeing a time savings in the eastbound direction on island of 20 minutes. And then, and that is showing basically that those signals are not having an impact on the travel time. Those actually improving the travel time through that corridor. And then it's 32 minutes in the westbound direction. So getting off island is still 32 minutes in time savings. All right. So the next recommendation was standardizing the corridor speed limit. So with curb and gutter bypass and sidewalks, early in the process, the decision was made to reduce the entire corridor speed limit to 45 miles an hour, and that's been approved by the DOT traffic engineer. The next recommendation was bike and ped, aesthetics, connectivity, and safety. So was to include 4 items: colored crosswalks like used by the town of Hilton Head, landscape medians with low landscaping, pathways with at least 8 foot of separation, and low-level street parking. So to include that, we're in agreement with the consistent crosswalk colors. They'll be similar to other crosswalks on the island. We're gonna have landscape medians where feasible, which is pretty much the entire length. Once you get onto Hilton Head Island, there will be landscape medians. Buffer widths are determined by DOT standards and desires to minimize property impacts along the corridor. They average out to about 7 foot of separation throughout the corridor. We're also including street lighting to enhance pedestrian safety, and then there will be downward facing lighting on the pedestrian path on the bridge, basically to not affect the habitat below the bridge. So we're also evaluating, going back, the crosswalk at Cross Street Drive is also being evaluated. The landscape medians, we've got a 15-foot landscape median through the entire corridor with minimal breaks through it. We'll be working with the county and town to determine what does that landscaping look like. Is there landscaping on the outside of the roadway as well to separate the multi-use path from the roadway? So again, spoke on the 7-foot sidewalk. Then we have sidewalks and boardwalks are proposed in the more urban sections of the corridor. Next slide, which is the roadway character east of the bridge. So the recommendation changes in landscaping, lighting, and pedestrian access in the Stony community to improve pedestrian access and aesthetics. So they wanted that to be provided by the landscape architect hired by the town. So we're continuing to work with the county and town on the vision for aesthetics and character of the corridor, but we do have included in the EA multiple recommendations for the Stony that are committed as part of the project. Those including signage to demarcate the Stony community to include a more of gateway feel to the community based on the boundary established by the traditional cultural property report, an open air pavilion on the town-owned property on US 278 and Squire Pope Road intersection. This will highlight the history of the Stony community and other Gola neighborhoods on the island, as well as be a place to display Gola artwork, statues, paintings, etc. But also have interactive kiosks to learn more about Stony and other Gola neighborhoods on the island. The next one was we're going to create theme-based street and multi-use path lighting to install flags and signage on lighting poles to indicate so people know they are within the Stony community. The landscaping along 278 within the Stony community, seating along the multi-use path, and then the last item is develop an online interactive map of the history of Stony community to share important historical information about the Stony community, the Gola communities, and Hilton Head Island. So each of these items that are included in the EA document are legally binding, that they have to be part of the project. So the only way that they're not part of the project is if the neighborhood as a whole decides they would rather not do them. So these are commitments that basically the DOT is making as part of the EA document that that has to be included. And a lot of that came out of, some of these were initially developed with community enhancements in mind for the Stony community for impacts, but then when the traditional cultural property report came out, it indicated that Stony was a gateway to Hillman, so we needed to basically put signage up that calls out as a gateway. You know, right now there's little signs out there. These signs are going to be about 4 or 5 times larger than that. They'll be brick with landscaping around them that really, you know, stands out and calls, you know, that you're going through Stony instead of just being a bypass that's calling out where you're coming to. The last one item was additional areas of study for potential improvements. So recommendation for the DOT, the county, or town to study locations that may need improvement because of safety or traffic flow. That included the Wild Horse Gumtree intersection, the old Wild Horse Road, Wild Horse intersection improvements, parallel local road connector between Squire Pope and Wild Horse Road, extending Chamberlain Drive to Spanish Wells, and a lane configuration for westbound Merck 278 and Cross Island Parkway. So as part of our evaluation and development of the project, we're going to analyze the old Wild Horse Road for possible improvements with some of the traffic being diverted off Wild Horse on the old Wild Horse. So we'll look to see if that needs to be repaved, the intersection needs to be reconfigured to better serve the traffic flow. And then also to include lane configuration improvements to help with westbound merging at the Cross Island Parkway. Our plan is to do traffic counts about 6 months after the toll comes off the Cross Island Parkway to better understand exactly what, we can use models to predict what the traffic's gonna do, but we wanna get traffic counts out there to see the reduction on Business 278 and the increase on the Cross Island Parkway to try to better understand what's going on there, and do we need to reconfigure any of the lanes in that connection. And as always, additional improvements may be needed in the future. The best thing is to start preparing now for future improvements through transportation improvement plans, right-of-way preservation, and identification of funding. I will go back and, we did look at a couple of these others, like the parallel local road connecting Squire Pope and Wild Horse. That has its own challenges because you're funneling all traffic through one signal, which makes that signal fail in the future. So, basically the best way to move traffic through here is to limit the number of signals, or the timing of the signals. So the two-phase signals, the majority of the time is to the 278 corridor, but you're able to serve the side roads of Squire Pope Road, Spanish Wells Road, and Wild Horse Road, basically to keep the functionality of, without redirecting all the traffic through the corridor. It helps to move 278 while not having a hindrance on the side streets as well. And then we do have a couple videos of the intersections, but you can go back to that. I'll cover that as well.
Sorry.
That will show at the end if everybody's interested in it. One is a synchro model of the intersection functioning, and the second one is a synchro model where you hop in a car and you're able to drive the entire corridor from 50 cars back at Spanish Wells Road, and you get all the way to the bridges without hitting a single traffic light. So you're able to, once you're moving through that corridor, you stay moving through that corridor. Could you go back to 2 slides back? Yep, one more, that one.
There you go.
So this is what's upcoming for, if everything moves forward today, for the public hearing. So right now, I can't see the top date there, but I believe it's July 14th through the 16th. And then August 18th through the 21st, we would schedule in-person personal appointments, which will be one-on-one, where you can schedule an hour to come in and meet with the project team. That will allow for the people that aren't comfortable coming to the public hearing to be able to see all the same information, to be able to talk to the project team. We intend to have between 2 and 4 people there at all times. The in-person public hearing will be at the Island, is tentatively set for the Island Rec Center on July 22nd from 2 to 7 p.m. We are going to open it up from 1 to 2 for elected officials, stakeholders, or stakeholder group. So we'll have that opened up early where people can come in and preview the materials as well. And then again, August 18th through the 21st, at the close of the public comment period, we propose to have additional office hours. And then one thing that's not listed there is on July 17th, we're gonna have from 1 to 4 p.m. We plan on having an individual meeting with the Stony community. So we're gonna take all the same material out and meet with them at the Rowing and Sailing Club. So it's a Saturday from 1 to 4 p.m. where we can sit down and basically address their concerns prior to the public hearing. And all the information will be live on the project website, so everything that's going to be displayed at the public hearing will be live early July. Basically, whenever it comes 15 days before the public hearing is when everything would go live, and then it stays live for public comment for 30 days after the public hearing. So there's a 45-day full comment period in there for people to share their concerns. There is going to be a phone number for people to call in. They can leave comments, they can request someone to call them back within 24 hours during 24 business hours. They can also text the project hotline, and then we have the in-mail, so if they're not comfortable coming out or being able to view the material online, we can send them a packet of material so that they can understand. And then, of course, there's the project contact with the website, Facebook page, and Twitter page. I'll open up to questions at this time unless the chairman would like to see the videos first and then have the questions after that.
Okay, Larry, are you comfortable with seeing the videos first and then asking questions?
I only have one question, so yeah, I can wait.
Okay, Chris, will you have questions?
Potentially, but I'd like to see the video first.
Okay, all right, let's show the video and then we'll,
This will be the combined, the title is combined traffic.
Hold on 1 second, I got to share it. Only we're seeing this right now at the moment.
Gotcha.
It's a few steps, I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's a movie that's well worth it.
Good. Okay.
So this video is 4 times actual speed through there, so you don't have to sit there for 10 minutes to watch everything move through there. So on the left of the screen is the Squire Pope Road intersection, and you got Old Wild Horse Road intersection. And this is in the PM peak.
For the Old Wild Horse intersection with the U-turn and left turn movements, you have 2 650-foot long turn lanes, which gets all of the traffic, all the queuing traffic out of the main thoroughfare. This particular section is just to show that Old Wild Horse will be a one-way road for the first half of it, first quarter of it.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Very.
Yeah, so you can see the queuing of the turn movements, but then you can also see mainline queuing does not back up on 278. So this is the Old Wild Horse Road Spanish Wall. So this is the other half of the corridor. You can see there is some queuing east of Spanish Wells Road, but under this scenario, everything clears out between 60 to 80 cars back. We're able to clear out through that corridor process through there. Yeah, and this is 2045 traffic. And as you can see, one of the concerns was there is the right turn onto eastbound 278 off of Spanish Wells. Right now, that there's a 4th lane that carries through that intersection, which can cause some issues with people merging. We've eliminated the ability to carry that 4th lane through there with the raised median, and then channelize that right turn movement so it is a free flow movement off of Spanish Wells Road.
okay.
Do we have a second video of getting in the car that you can see driving through the corridor?
All right, I'm gonna pause this and then share it.
So you're coming up to Spanish Bowls Wild Horse here. And there's the old Wild Horse signal.
Yeah, that's exactly how they drive.
Yeah.
See a blinker.
Yeah, yeah.
So this does show all the synchro modeling, the sim traffic modeling that went into the entire corridor that this is based on.
What is the recommended speed limit for
45.
section?
Yep, 45 miles an hour.
Gotcha.
Which means everybody will be doing 60 to 65. That's it?
Yep,
All right,
that's it.
Larry, you had the question. Go ahead.
Hey, thank you. Earlier on, first of all, hello, everyone. Earlier on, there were some suggestions that there would be no left turns in the eastbound lane at Squire Pope, at Old Wild Horse or at Wild Horse, and that they would progress to Gumtree for the left. In these models, it appears that's not the case. So in the eastbound direction, there will be one left turn, and that would be at Old Wild Horse. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. When we come out of Squire Pope Road and want to go westbound, there is always a line of 10 to 15 to 20 cars there who just can't seem to get into those two lanes because of traffic backup, and there's no merge lane there. Have you addressed that?
Say that one more time to make sure. So you're trying to get
Spanish?
off of Squire Pope Road to go westbound off Island, correct?
That's right.
Yeah, so-
And there's a traffic light there.
Yeah.
So when they get a green light, they still can't make a right turn because the traffic backs right up into the intersection.
Correct.
So the traffic just backs up on Squire Pope because there's no way to merge into that flow of traffic eventually. If there was a merge lane there, you could make 5 or 6 or 7 of those cars turn into that merge lane and gradually get in there. But when the light turns green again for the westbound traffic, people are still stuck at Squire Pope Road because they didn't have a chance to go into the 2 lanes that were backed up and there was no merge lane. Did you address a merge lane at that location?
We did, yes. We have a merge acceleration lane off of Squire Pope Road on the westbound 278. So
So that there'll be how many lanes there? 3?
there'll be 3 through lanes and then an acceleration lane as well. So it's a for short distance 4 lane, about 800 feet.
So there'll be 3 lanes and a short merge lane?
Correct.
And right now there are 2 lanes?
Yeah,
and no
correct.
merge.
There's 2 lanes right now.
Okay, well, that's big. Okay, I didn't hear anything about the entry and exit to the South Carolina, Windmill Harbor. Did you cover that?
Yes, yeah. So that's the Gateway Drive C. Hendricks Circle.
Yeah.
There will be a full access signal at that location. It'll be a 3-phase signal. So basically what we've done there is we've combined all the traffic from Blue Heron Point, Jenkins Road. So basically Mariners Cove, Hog Island, Windmill Harbor, the marina there, all of that comes through one signal. Instead of having 3 access points, it's all through one access point on the 278. So we're able to reduce conflict points there.
Has that changed the entrance and exit for Windmill Harbor, or is that where the light will be?
That's where the light would be.
So people going westbound can cross over and enter,
Correct.
and people who are leaving Windmill Harbor and want to go westbound can cross over and depart.
Correct.
And the right turns going eastbound, really, there doesn't seem to be a real issue with that because the way it's set up now is fine. So that light there will control all that. Okay.
Correct.
Well, those answer my questions. Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me ask you another question. When you make the left on Old Wild Horse, people usually want to make the left on Squire Pope, and then they go up to that traffic circle. or they make a left on Wild Horse across from Spanish Wells Road, and they rejoin Gumtree Road, or they can make a left and go into the community. What's the plan for people, once they get on Old Wild Horse, to have a network available for them to get to their destination?
So-
Assuming they're not all heading to Hilton Head Plantation.
So at that U-turn, so basically at that location, there's 2 turn lanes. There's the ability for the inside lane to make a U-turn movement or to turn left. The outside lane would turn left. So Old Wild Horse Road becomes a one-way road, two-lane roadway, which would connect back into Wild Horse. So if someone was traditionally turning left onto Wild Horse Road, they would turn left at Old Wild Horse and just continue up that connection with
Okay.
Old Wild Horse, and if they're going to Squire Pope Road, they can make the U-turn and go back to Squire Pope Road and have basically a protected movement so they can get in all the way across all the traffic to make that, and then there's an acceleration lane or decel lane onto Squire Pope.
Hold. So they make a left on Old Wild Horse, that connects to Wild Horse, and that'll eventually connect them to Gumtree Road.
Correct.
Okay, how do you, when you make the left on Old Wild Horse, how do you get to Squire Pope?
You don't make the left onto Old Wild Horse. You make a U-turn. You make a U-turn at that location.
Okay, and then you go back to Squire Pope, make a right.
Correct, yeah. It's about 1,000-foot distance between the two.
Oh, it's a protected U-turn.
Yep, it's all protected U-turns.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, who would like to go next? Chris, go ahead.
Thank you. I appreciate the presentation. This was really, really helpful. I also appreciate Larry's questions, because those were exceptionally helpful as well. I just have 2 follow-ups, just to make sure that I'm 100% clear. So the light at Windmill Harbor, they're not going to have to change that gate or that entrance in any way, shape, or form, correct? Because I thought that I heard that was going to be an access point for the 3 neighborhoods. Or is that just going to be Windmill Harbor, the gate stays the same, there's a light that goes in there?
Yes, it will still just be Windmill Harbor, and the gate will stay the same. There was look at trying to do a full, basically not having light there and make it all right in, right out through that entire area. But by doing that, you have to go behind Windmill Harbor's gate, and that first road within Windmill Harbor no longer has a gated protection behind it. So that was kind of eliminated early from that consideration.
Got it. Okay. Very helpful. And then the second one is, I think that the light there at Windmill Harbor was always the preferred solution going back years and years and years. But if memory serves, that wasn't a possibility because of proximity to the bridge, I think is what I heard. So I'm just kind of curious how that analysis has changed, what's changed in the analysis to allow that light to go there.
So that location never met, so DOT has a signal warrant analysis and the MUTCD has a signal warrant analysis. There's a bunch of criteria that you follow. So basically the way that we met the signal warrant was to eliminate the other roadways to that corridor. So you're combining all the traffic through that one intersection, and it basically meets the signal warrants. And the other item we were able to do is, typically when you do a signal, you can reduce the right turn. There's a reduction that goes in there for right turn movement. So you don't count the people that are taking a right turn is typically not counted in the car count for the intersection. But because of the way that 278 and the volume of traffic that's coming through there, we were able to convince the traffic engineer basically that by taking those reductions out, those people aren't going to be able to merge without a signal there. It will take them so long and delay. So basically, it was combining the traffic and then the right turn, taking away the right turn reduction.
Got it. That is very interesting. I appreciate the explanation. I appreciate the presentation.
Thank you.
That's it for me.
Okay, Mark or York, any questions from you? Okay,
I yield to your Mark first.
he's not answering York, so go ahead.
Okay. No, I don't. I apologize for missing the initial presentation. I could not get on access to the internet, so I had to come to another location. Your presentation, the earlier presentation, is it online or video or some sort, or do you have
we can provide it to you.
Yeah, we'll be able to provide it to all council members.
Just so
Gotcha.
council's aware, this is going to be on the county channel.
That will help me.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay.
Hey, Joe, I'm on, if that's okay.
Yeah, go ahead, Mark.
I just want to follow up on Larry and then Chris's question. Blue Heron Point, they're going to come out to the light at the harbor, but they're not going to cross under, north side of 228, access that light. I apologize, I can't see the maps, I'm driving, and again, just listening to your presentation. Excellent presentation, but that's the only question I've got.
Yeah, so they will still pass, so Mariners Cove will pass under the bridge to go over to Hog Island. There will be a new small bridge that connects Hog Island to Jenkins Island that would connect it back up to the signal. So with Blue Heron Point going away, it's just rerouting the traffic to Hog Island and across to Jenkins Island. So instead of having that initial right turn, they would be able to take a left turn at C. Heinrich Circle or Gateway Drive and go back to the neighborhood.
Okay.
Well, that's interesting. But, sorry, Mark, go ahead.
Oh, so that's thank you, that's all I had.
So you're gonna use that underpass then, Scott, is that right? You're gonna go under there?
That's correct, yes.
Oh, wow. Well, that's fine. And then connected on Hog Island, does a road have to go in there to connect it to Heinrich Circle?
Yeah, so we'll develop a road. We're basically developing a frontage road that connects between Hog Island and Jenkins Road.
Great, okay, thank you.
No problem.
Chris?
Yeah, one more I forgot to ask, I apologize, because I know I'm gonna get the question, what is gonna be the timing of when the light goes in front of Windmill Harbor?
That hasn't been determined, the final timing of that light. It does operate at a level of service C, so it's operating at the same level of service that the corridor is. So we're not seeing any backup, significant backup at that intersection. You might see 15 or 20 cars back up on 278, but most of it's going to be pretty short signal timing for the side streets because there isn't a great deal of traffic there at that location.
Yeah, I apologize, I didn't ask that question very well at all. Basically, when is the light gonna be installed?
Oh, sorry, yes. The light will be installed as part of the construction project. So all the connections need to be made prior to that light getting installed.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Go ahead.
Go ahead after you.
No, I want to summarize.
Oh, okay.
So you go first.
A couple questions. Hi, Greg. Good to see you. I do think the independent review in this thing has put to bed a lot of issues, and that's been good. A couple of just kind of common man type things as I talk to people on the island. First has to do with safety. It seems that little section through Stony is the most accident-prone part of the island, with the possible exception of Seapine Circle, which tends to be side swipes. So in terms of regular accidents, rear ends and so on. And people say, well, if we're going to be increasing the number of signals and increasing the throughput and still having left turns and all of that, it seems to me it's going to be less safe. Is there something, I've heard the term safety audit. Is this going to be done or has been done as part of this to make sure we have something that's safe? Because it appears like it may start to be unsafe.
Yeah, we've gone through and analyzed the safety. That's part of the NEPA process to look at the safety of the corridor. So as you come through that section, we're looking at pedestrian safety as well as pedestrian access, as well as vehicular safety. So when you're looking through there, by making everything two-phase signals through there, it improves the safety of the corridor. You're able to basically reduce all the conflict movement. So you have your left turn movement now is all protected. So it's a protected left turn, but you're only turning left across traffic at one location. So instead of having a left turn at Square Poe, multiple left turns at Square Poe, multiple left turns at Spanish Wells, you have one consolidated left turn. So the other thing is the left turns on the westbound left turns onto Squire Pope Road is diverted down to the U-turn as well. So you have opposing U-turns there. So those are able, both traffic stop, you can clear those U-turns. So you're eliminating the ability, people turning across traffic. So with those signals and advanced warning, you're able to improve the safety of that corridor. But you're also able to, right now, majority of the accidents in that area are, in the entire corridor, are rear end type of accidents, which is congestion based. And then the second one would be angular collisions at intersections. While you're able to reduce the angular collisions by going to two-phase signals and protected U-turn movement. So that increases the safety throughout the corridor.
Okay. Secondly, and you and I have talked a little bit about this over time, but people have trouble understanding why we wouldn't do a grade separation. I mean, it seems like the volume, I understand the volume is going to be greater than it is on I-95. Why we wouldn't just bite the bullet and have one grade separation, which would obviously reduce congestion and improve safety significantly. So how does that sort out as an explanation to the common man?
Impacts the Stony community is the easiest explanation to that, because anytime you do a grade separation, you're basically putting a full interchange in there. So basically, if you say you do a Spanish Wells, you're going to end up impacting basically everything from Old Wild Horse Road to basically the Cross Island to get up, no matter which direction you go. So if you think about it, to get grade separated, you're basically 2,000 foot long to get your grade separation, to get up and down, and that's at the maximum incline rate. So you're inclining up, you're bridging, and you're coming down. It's 2,000 feet to be able to do that. So to grade separate anything along 278 would impact, you would wipe out all the businesses and residents within Stony in that general area.
Does the same apply to an overpass, let's say going from Spanish Wells to Wild Horse?
You would have significant impacts through there as well.
Okay. And
Because you have to make all your ramp connections and stuff.
Are you saying if there wasn't a community consideration you just described, would that in fact be the preferred solution to have a grade separation?
And we would still have all the environmental impacts associated with the wetland impacts there. And again, we're able to get, without grade separation, the level above acceptable level of service to the corridor. And you're not going to see, you would see very similar level of service with the grade separation, with your merge and diverge conditions.
Okay.
And you actually reduce the safety of the corridor because you introduce additional signals or introduce additional merge diverge locations.
Okay. I didn't quite follow the one slide that had the delays and the average speeds, but did I interpret that correctly, that at the peak period of time, admittedly the design point of 2045, that the traffic is not free-flowing, it's something less than the 45 miles per hour?
Correct, yes. So that's typical at peak time because you don't want to over-design the corridor.
Sure.
So, I mean, it's flowing at a level of service C throughout the entire corridor, which, even going to 4 lanes, it gets you a level of service B. So, looking at it, you can't widen yourself out of congestion to some point. Basically, you get to a point where it's acceptable, and that's where you continue to, you find that, and, that condition, that travel time is, above acceptable at that time.
Yeah. Lastly, just to my understanding, it sounds like that you're saying, even though the preferred alternative is scheduled to come out in July, I guess, it sounds like you have the preferred alternative at this point in time. Am I interpreting that correctly?
We have a recommended preferred alternative that
Okay.
Federal Highways is reviewing.
Okay. And that, is that also for the bridge also, or is that portion still being worked on?
Yes, it's for the entire corridor. We have a recommended preferred for the entire corridor.
Okay. And I guess I've never quite understood, it seems like it's partially revealed but not totally revealed, and I realize it's conditional on EPA and the federal highway. Why wouldn't, just for my edification, why wouldn't the preferred alternative be out there so then people could be responding to it? Because it seems to me it's a little bit backwards, and maybe it's the nature of the process, to have a preferred alternative, run it all the way through, and then if people don't like it, they're then in a position of, well, what do we do here? Is that the nature of the process?
That is a federal highway and NEPA or CEQ regulations.
Okay.
Basically, we cannot release the preferred alternative or the impacts associated, the full impacts associated with it, until Federal Highway signs the environmental document.
Okay.
So in doing that, basically, that's what the public hearing is for. So
Okay.
the public hearing allows for the public to comment on it. So for an EA document, typically, for a smaller project for an EA scale, we would have one public meeting, which would be the public hearing. So that would be the first time that the public sees the project. They have you basically have a 30-day comment period to comment on it. Based on those comments and comments from the local partners, and resource partners, you go back and you refine those. So we can go back from the preferred alternative and tweak it to reduce impacts. You know, somebody brings up, hey, why don't we relocate this, or had you consider this? And when we start evaluating, it makes sense. Then basically we go back and make those decisions and make those revisions. So the final federal decision will not come until 3 or 4 months after the public hearing. So we'll have to get all the public comments together, and we submit that and any revisions to federal highways. And under this scenario, we're hopeful for a FONSI, which is a finding of no significant impact.
And so, but effectively you're saying, at least through the Stony portion, we have what's going to be the preferred alternative unless EPA and Federal Highway does something different? Is that what I'm
Correct. So that
interpreting?
matched up with basically a majority of the alternatives have the same solution through there. So
Sure.
all the impacts. So we looked at the intersections, and that's where we kind of evaluate those and felt comfortable releasing that information.
Good. Thank you, Greg.
Okay, the purpose of this meeting was to take the independent review that was done, the questions, and you've answered them. And I gotta tell you, the reactions of my fellow council members indicate how well you have analyzed everything. I'm going to, the look on Chris Hervishon's face was magnificent because he represents Windmill Harbor. They have come to him time and time again. Help us. You have listened. That preferred method of having the people get into their community and out of their community without major disruption is exceptional. I hope I've said it correctly for you, Chris, because that's how it was. Larry, who lives on the island, he was, wow, okay, yeah, this makes sense. Now, I'm going to play, not devil's advocate, I'm going to play the position of the average individual who has no idea what you are talking about. When we go to the public hearing, the document you have is exceptional. The problem is we have to speak a different language. People don't understand what a two-phase light is.
Correct, yes.
We're going to have to explain that to them. A picture is worth 1,000 words. So when we're going through everything and you're talking about the light at this and the U-turns, visual is going to say it all.
Yeah, we have all that, we're working on developing.
Absolutely. So from my point of view, we need to move this on as quickly as we can. We need to have that July 22nd public hearing. It's going to allay a lot of the fears that people have, because you allayed a lot of the fears that council people have as to, gee, this makes sense now. We can do this. Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it very much. Have I overstepped my bounds with you, Chris, or you, Larry? Is that how you see it?
Yeah, I understand the road layout, but there's still going to be considerable flowback with regard to Stony with expanding the lanes and perhaps condemning and purchasing property and moving families, doing things like that. And that wasn't mentioned here. And that's something that I don't know it will probably have to be addressed in the public hearings because it's going to come up. That's the major concern of the people in the historic area of Stony, which is in District 10 and runs from the Crazy Crab right to Spanish Wells Road. On both sides of the road, where there are families who have been displaced by previous road work and are anticipating further displacement by this road work. And I didn't hear anything about that. So it would be interesting to form an opinion of that. Aside from what's happening with Windmill Harbor, I mean, I think that's a great solution to a long-standing problem. Now we're faced with the crazy grab to Spanish World Road. And that becomes, Jenkins
Okay.
said the Spanish World.
I think Craig may have some.
Yeah, and I can address that. We started back in November of 2019. We had the second meeting with the Sony community. Since then, we've had 6 meetings with the community as a whole, talking about impacts, talking about the community enhancements. We went out a couple months ago and met individually with each business owner as well as property owner within the corridor. We've had one-on-one meetings with everybody out there. Now, people, of course, some are not happy with what's happening, but we have been able to sit down with them. We've sat in some living rooms to have conversations with people and just explain to them. So when they come to the public hearing, they're not going to be surprised by what they see, but we have the ability, we're going to have an individual meeting with the Sony community prior to the public hearing to be able to understand and listen to their concerns as well.
Okay.
Any other questions from any member of council?
I'll just make a comment if I might.
Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, I'm with Larry on this one. I'm still a little concerned about the Stony community. It's encouraging to hear that it's not going to be a surprise to them what's presented, because that would be one of the big concerns, is we surprise them with something that's going to also make them angry. So to the extent that we can eliminate the surprise, I think that's a good thing. I think it's a good thing that we're going to get a light in front of Windmill Harbor, because that seems to be the safest option, and something that, to my knowledge, wasn't contemplated as possible until now. So I think that that's a positive. There are still some concerns, though, about the bridge and the proximity to Windmill Harbor and how close it's going to be, noise factors and things of that nature. So I personally need a little bit of time to digest this, but I do think that overall we're going in a positive direction.
Okay. Stu?
Yeah, just one other comment. Obviously, we all get hung up a little bit on the Stony area, but as I step back from it, from if you look at a $300 million project, whatever it is, it's a relatively small amount in total, and clearly the bridges are the big part. I think you're going in the right direction on Windmill Harbor, and and so I think sometimes we all lose sight of the fact that area, although it's extremely important, is still a relatively small piece of the overall project, and the bridge is obviously a tremendous design type of activity that you have. So we want to play highway engineer, as you know.
So now, while we are not going to take any kind of vote, but I would surmise that as a result of the presentation, we would certainly want to see this moved ahead so that there is a public presentation on July 22nd. I think that speaks for itself. The more we get out to the public with you present, because you're the experts at this, I think it will bode well for people who have questions and can really get them answered.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Well, thank you for all coming. I appreciate you guys coming today. This was an excellent presentation. The county channel will have the presentation on it for anybody who came in late and did not see it in its entirety. And I'm sure that individual council members will be able to get to the actual presentation.
And we'll also load the presentation on our website so that the public can access it as well.
Okay, great.
I think you think you're briefing the town tomorrow, town council tomorrow?
Yes.
Same presentation, probably?
Yeah, same presentation, 11 a.m. tomorrow for
11 a.m., okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you very
We're
much.
proceeding on with the public hearing for July 22nd.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Emails in your inbox.